Over the past century, cars have changed tremendously. Some will say for the better and some will say for the worst, but I'm just here to say what has been done. So many cars have been produced over the years. Obviously, after over 100 years of major production, there's going to be some innovation. From cars that were play toys from the rich, to cars that you can buy for radically cheap, to incredibly expensive luxury cars, a fun sports car, family sedans, the list just keeps on going. There has been multiple changes for cars. We're going to go back in history and start off with the first car, which was the Model T. Henry Ford, everyone knows who Henry Ford is. He created the Model T. It was the first major produced car in America that was affordable. Prior to his purchases, creations rather, they were ridiculously hard to purchase. A car back in early 1900s was ridiculously expensive. Arguably the first reliable car that a family could own. He also invented the assembly line, which made it able to be cheaper, which also created a bunch of jobs. The reason it made it able to be cheaper is because when you're able to produce cars at such a fast rate, supply increases, which demand decreases, blah, blah, blah. Cars cheaper. Cars had to innovate to survive. In the 1970s, there was an oil shortage and gas prices were going up. Everything was getting more expensive and families needed something affordable. Because in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, cars were generally big, giant, heavy boats, people would call them. They usually had very big V8 engines, horrible on gas, just because it wasn't an issue. But in the 70s, cars became small, nimble, smaller engines, better on gas because they had to. This allowed companies that weren't American companies to surge, like Honda, Toyota, Volkswagen. All those companies came in that crisis because they offered smaller, cheaper cars. For example, some cars like the Beetle or the Volkswagen Rabbit, those cars really excelled in that time period. Another example of the innovation is in the sports cars. Sports cars have evolved from gas-guzzling V8 monsters. Back in the day, the only sports cars we had were Camaros, Mustangs, Plymouths, like the NASCARs, basically. But now we have light and nimble roadsters like the Miata. We have ultra high-end sports cars like Lamborghinis, just different things that they have innovated over the years. And also the sports cars became affordable. If you look at some of the sports cars you can buy today, I know you can buy a Focus ST for 15 grand. Mustangs, they're not that expensive. Companies have also shifted to innovation to shifted to innovate a fun transmission, for those who don't know how to drive a manual, and they came out with what's called a dual clutch, where you have paddles on the steering wheel and can switch gears without a clutch. They've also found out ways to innovate cars to make them fuel efficient, even if they're sports cars. The future to cars are limitless. Just over 1 century, we've seen incredible amounts of innovation, so obviously the sky is the limit. 20 years ago, if I were to tell you you'll see a fully electric, reliable car, then you'd call me insane, but look what Tesla's done. Hybrids are another strong piece of technology that is very affordable. Cars are able to get 50 or 60 miles per gallon. If you said that 20 years ago, it just seems unreasonable. Tesla is one of the largest car companies in the world, and they make their cars fully electric. So you have tons of innovation there. So for better or for worse, cars are changing for the future, and things that sound impossible will be easy.